versions of small sedans, and 24 such cars took the green in 2001 in the runoffs at Mid-Ohio. Early leader Wilson Wright lost the lead on lap 5 as its transmission let go, forfeiting the top spot to Scott Culbertson. 5 laps later, Culbertson developed a tire problem and couldn't hold off the charging number 33, Jamie Hausman's Honda CRX. With the excitement of the lead sorted out, Juan Montalvo Jr. was one driver whose day ended not the way he had hoped. Montalvo was okay, but disappointed. One man feeling no sorrow was Jamie Hausman, who captured his 3rd national title and 1st in GT4. Who will gain the glory this time? We know the racing's going to be terrific in GT4. How about some of the stories? Let me introduce you to 3 of them. Russ Theus is a former champion. He has his car up for sale, but if he doesn't get a buyer, he said he's going to go out and try to win another national title and drive the price up a little bit. Then consider Rusty Bell. He's doing double duty this weekend. Not like you would expect, though. He's going to have a microphone in his car and talk to the crowd as he drives around the racetrack. He'll be doing that when he isn't racing, too, from over in the backstretch tower. And finally, Wilson Wright. Talk about your one-man band. He comes here all by himself. He works on other people's street cars 5 days a week, then his own race car. And on his 1 weekend of vacation, he's hoping to win a national championship. Now let's go to Dorsey Schrader. I'm sure he's got something to add to all of that.
Keith Grant is one of the drivers that is driving in multi-classes this year, but in this particular car, the GT4 car, he's really happy. He's already won twice this year, and he unloaded the race car here at Mid-Ohio a second lap faster than he's ever been before. Could he win this race today? Well, not if this man has something to say about it. Steve Spires is having a phenomenal year. He's won 5 times in this car so far this year, and it's only his 2nd time here at the runoffs. Could the 2nd time be a charm? Well, we're about to find out. But this man, Scott Culbertson, he was my personal pick last year. He almost had it won. All he had to do is use the chrome horn, move his competition aside, and he would have won. He didn't do it. He's had 1 year to look at the tape. Will he use the chrome horn this year, or will he even have to? We're about to find out.
All the preparations are complete, and a small field, but a quality field, is going to take to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in quest of a national championship here at the Valvoline Runoffs in GT4. The Grand Touring 4 class provides a lot of action and should be some of the closest racing all weekend at the SCCA Valvoline Runoffs here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the 39th running of this historic event, the 9th time it's been at this great racetrack. And take a look at the layout that they're going to be facing here, Dorsey Schrader.
Great track for this kind of a race car. 2.4 miles, 15 turns, but it's a handling and a horsepower track. These are real race cars. They handle really good, and we're going to see one heck of a race out of them, I guarantee you.
Well, we expect nothing less from some of the men that you met at the beginning of this. There's a little bit about the race cars. They are thoroughbreds, even though they look pretty much like your average sedan.
They're ground up built. I mean, these are full tube frame cars. You can do anything you need. You move the things around and wait and get the car exactly like you want it, and then put a silhouette body on it so it looks like something, and that's what it's about.
Our Valvoline starting grid has Scott Culbertson on the pole. 2-time champion Wilson Wright is right behind him, and Keith Grant, who you spoke to, Dorsey. We've got a real quality field here of guys, including 4 former champions. So we're going to have a repeat winner, maybe, or first-timer. That could be fun, too.
Well, Scott Culbertson last year had the fastest car, no question about it. He just could not find his way around, and he was a total gentleman. He never bumped or never run and didn't do any of that stuff. But, you know, he didn't win the championship. Now, that championship's worth a lot. Let's see what happens.
We're going to have lots of help working pit road here today. First, let's go to Chris Neville.
Well, Jamie Hausman, our 2001 champion, had a disappointing qualifying session. Qualified 5th, however, things got worse. This is where he should be for the grid. The car isn't here. He is broke. He will not make the race. We will not have a repeat championship. More with Guy.
Thanks, Chris. I'm just down here further down the grid with car number 96, Bill Davidson. He's one of only 2 non-Japanese cars out there. This is a 1980 Ford Fiesta. Watch out for the American medal to come through.
All right, Guy Hobbs and Chris Neville working downstairs. We've already got some drama before the race even starts. We expect there to be a lot more of it in 20 laps of competition here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The Valvoline Runoffs national champions about to be crowned in GT4.
Oh, yeah!
They thought the location was deserted.
That's perfect!
But they uncovered a secret hideout.
Just kill them.
Now, for 6 friends,
We really need to get out of here.
the only way to stop a group of terrorists planning the unthinkable is to make it down the mountain alive and warn the world. Extreme Ops. Rated PG-13. Starts Wednesday, November 27th.
Help! I can't open my parachute!
Well, hey, me neither!
So what on earth are we going to do then?
Stop flapping! I've got some Red Bull! It gives you wings, you know, and it stimulates your body and mind! Wow!
Well, it's...
Drive, extra memory for performance, CD...
Entertainment, recording music, sharing photos, gaming, and beyond. Right now, you can get 0% interest for 6 months. Get great deals on notebooks, too.
Dude, we're getting another Dell.
Sweet! When you want your perfect PC, it's easy as Dell. Dell PCs use Intel Pentium 4 processors.
Speed Channel's coverage of the SCCA Valvoline Runoffs is brought to you by Valvoline. You can always tell the guys who use Valvoline. Cars are on the racetrack. We're down to 17 entries. Former champion, defending champion, in fact, is out of the race. Jamie Hausman, a no-show on the starting grid, along with number 52, John Mills, whose 73 Opel Manta couldn't make the start. We're on board with Keith Grant here. He'll be starting third and carrying a camera. Right now, he's looking at a couple of race cars in front of him. He hopes the view clears up a little bit from here.
Absolutely. And what a shame, you know, the defending champion not being able, Jamie Hausman not able to make the grid, broke something, couldn't fix it, and he comes all the way here from London, Ontario, Canada, so that's a long trip home.
So they're going side by side as they head back towards the starting grid. Let's quickly go downstairs to Guy Hobbs with an update on the pole sitter.
Yeah, just checked in to see if they had any problems. No issues. They just spent an hour and a half, though, changing and putting in a wiper motor in case it rained. Obviously, they're not going to need that today.
Does appear as though the skies are going to remain friendly over Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course as they get set to go to the green here in GT4. Wilson Wright alongside the pole sitter there. They were the fast two qualifiers. Keith Grant third. Jamie Hausman, who qualified fifth, is not going to make the race. And we're going green at Mid-Ohio in GT4. 20 laps for a national championship. Wilson Wright in the number 9 car out in front right now. Looks like he got the jump on the green and will lead into the turn.
There was a little jockeying going on there at the start, and Wilson timed it perfect. He did get it. Look at the lead he's got already.
A great advantage now for Wilson Wright. As we mentioned at the top of the show, he comes here all by himself. The Lone Wolf is out in front right now in that orange number 9.
These are neat little race cars. Like I said, they're complete, real race cars. They look like sedans, like those street stock cars, but these are hot rods, and they're fast and they handle good.
Full tubular chassis and roll cages underneath the bodywork, and skin is stretched over them to make them look like street sedans. We have Nissan Sentras, 200 SXs, Honda CRXs out there. The Opel Manta didn't make the field. There's even a Ford Fiesta circulating around out there, and there it is.
And make no mistake about it, the factories are definitely interested in these type of cars, particularly Toyota, who really like to showcase and race their cars, and these look like what you buy on the street.
Number 96 of Bill Davidson is an 80 Ford Fiesta. As Wilson Wright at the number 9 Nissan 200 SX is out in front. He's getting a challenge, however. It's Culbertson, the pole sitter, who's pulled right up behind him now. The two of them escaping slightly from number 10 Keith Grant. And we've got a battle going on up front. We've got them all over the racetrack here. Take a look at this. The 91 of Steve Spires just barely in front. In 4th position there of Russ Theus, who is also a former champion. We're down to 3 former champions in the field now, and Theus is one of them.
Well, Theus is an interesting case. I raced against him in the late 70s. He's an engineer by trade for Ford Motor Company. All my years at Ford Motor Company, we used to interact quite a bit.
There are your leaders right now, and a challenge from Culbertson as he pulls alongside of the braking zone down in turn 6. They're door to door, only room for one on the exit, and it's going to be Culbertson who takes the lead from Wilson Wright. He's not going to give it up. A little bit of contact.
Watch the bump.
Oh, some agricultural excursion and even more contact.
Yeah, behind him it's stacked up. Look, a new leader.
Oh yeah.
Out of nowhere, those two bumped each other, and the 10 car jumped in front. Keith Grant saw that opportunity and said, all right, go ahead, hit each other.
Now the view from his onboard has got clear racetrack in front of him as Keith Grant takes advantage of some dicing going on between pole sitter Scott Culbertson and the early leader, Wilson Wright, Will Wright.
Now, Scott Culbertson had 0.6 of a second on the entire field, over second place even. So you would expect if he got to the front, but he would take off. Here, right down in the brake zone, side by side. And Wilson Wright wants to stick on the outside, so he runs up the hill, and that's okay. You can do that. But right here, there's just not much room. Here's the bump. Loosens up Scott pretty well there. You see a good save, real good save. Car's unloaded there. Wilson, that was the second hit that was behind that. That was a stack-up effect.
That was Spears and Russ Theus that also checked up behind what they thought was going to be a big old wreck, and they're not done pushing on each other yet.
Well, that's that replay.
Oh, replay,
it's replay, and behind them it did stack up, and of course caused a wreck back to his Russ Theus.
Okay, now we're back to live action, and Keith Grant is out in front of the number 10. Nissan 200SX also qualified third. He is now your leader. Behind him, it's Culbertson, the pole sitter. And Will Wright, who's gathering himself back up again after losing the lead and then losing second position, too.
And these cars are not the most aerodynamic. We see the 91 cars off the racetrack. That's Steve Spires. We talked about him. He was doing well. He's out early, out of the car, behind the wall.
Well, that was in the aftermath of the action among the leaders. So Steve Spires' Nissan is off into the grass there and has some damage on the front. Meanwhile, Grant getting a challenge from Culbertson, who had a notion to look up inside again. His car's a little loose, Culbertson, but sometimes they say loose is fast.
It is around this place for sure, because this track tends to want to be tight and be understeering with all these patches like this one you see right here. The car doesn't have a lot of grip, so you normally tend to be fast if you can get it to be loose.
Using it all.
Well, all three of them a little bit loose, actually.
These are your first three cars. Will Wright back in third position, led early. Grant was third, moved to first when Will Wright and Culbertson got together. And the 37 car is down in the pits right now. Russ Theus, well, instead of driving the price up, a little damage is going to drive the price down on a car that was for sale before this race started. And Theus, taking his gloves off, could be done for the day.
That's a shame. Now look at these top three guys. What I was going to say before is that they're not the most aerodynamic cars in the world, so they really do draft well. Now the 24 cars pulled in the pits as well.
The 24 car also in the pits now. Joe Christensen out of Ontario, Canada, has his Honda CRX parked, and he's climbing out, done for the day. So the field's gotten thinned out significantly here. It started out fairly small to begin with. Two drivers didn't show up for the start, and several more have exited the race from incidents and mechanical problems. But Keith Grant is your leader, and right now we've got a great battle for all three of the medals up front.
Steel Building Depot.
Look at him go.
And Justice, every Wednesday only on Court TV.
Bank newsletter. Portfolio or go to the web.
And competing against the best amateur drivers in the country.
The runoffs used to be, of course, in Atlanta. Now they're in Mid-Ohio. It's going to be a better tow than it was before.
Much shorter, and the track here is absolutely phenomenal.
You love the track here. You're going to go for the outright victory GT4 class. But this is going to be your last time running in GT4 because you're moving on to bigger things.
Yes, I'm moving on to the Air Force in May. I graduate and become a second lieutenant in the Air Force.
The cockpit's a little bit different, but this one's very racy, and you'll be running for GT4 class victory here at Mid-Ohio.
That's exactly what he's doing right now. Dorsey Schrader in the middle of this battle for first, second, and third.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Keith Grant. Boy, he not only got that lead in a very smart fashion, but he seems to be the fastest of these three cars right now.
Grant is out in front, took advantage of the action between the two cars behind him to take the lead, and since then, he's really taken control.
Well, if I was in one of these cars, I'd like to be in that one. You know, around here in Mid-Ohio, it's hard to be passed if you don't want to be passed.
Scott Culbertson drawing up close to him, and Will Wright trying to keep both of them close. The 37 car down in the pits, Russ Theus, and the damage is very obvious. In fact, you wouldn't even get this view if some of the bodywork wasn't missing. Now, the crew is working on the car, and they're trying to get it back in shape where he might be able to return and make a few more laps.
I thought I saw a lot of fluid out of the thing. I think he might have popped the radiator or burst the radiator there.
Let's go down to Guy Hobbs and find out.
Yeah, Russ brought it in, and you said the rich pageantry of racing, but it's more like the expensive pageantry of racing.
You got that right. Very rich.
Tell us exactly what happened.
I had a good run on the red Nissan. I think it was Spires or Spears at the end of the straight, and I went by. And we were about 2/3 of the way around the corner, and he just chopped over on me, and my left front went up over his hood.
Obviously, the radiator is seriously damaged and everything else, and this one's beyond repair, but it's still for sale?
Oh, yeah. We'll fix it.
How much are you asking for it now?
How much you got?
Let me check with Dorsey. He's the one with all the money.
Well, it's worth a little less now than it was at the beginning of this race. In the meantime, we've had a lead change. We've had a multiple lead change.
We've had a huge change in the race. Will Wright is out in front right now, and in second position, it's Grant with a fender rubbing on his right rear tire. Culbertson is back to third, and man, oh man, while we were listening to Russ Theus and the rich pageantry of racing, we were seeing it unfold right before our eyes.
And it was all Culbertson. We'll see the replay right here. It's all set up. Here comes down into the inside, tries to do an out-braking maneuver, but look, rear brake lockup, gets sideways, catches, and checks up. And that, of course, Wright sees that and runs up here. Now look at the damage on the right rear, so there was already something happening before that. And over the top of the hill where there's no room to do this, watch what happens. Wilson Wright takes a wider run, takes a dive bomb out to the inside, going down into a real slippery corner, and just sticks the 9 car right inside the 10 and makes it work.
Well, at that point, Grant was fighting some problems there, and he had smoke pouring off the right rear tire. Apparently, that problem has subsided to a certain degree. But what it has done is given Will Wright a huge lead in this race right now. Huge by comparison, anyway, to what we were seeing a few minutes ago.
Boy, did you see the aggression? Wilson Wright read that perfectly. He saw all that going on, and he just jumped into the thing, dove the car to the inside, took over the lead. Now he's setting sail. In the meantime, we have to worry about Keith Grant because he has a fender rubbing down on the right rear tire.
Wright, the 98 and 99 GT4 champion, looking to come back here on his 1 week off a year. He works very hard as a small shop owner and all by himself. One of his, in fact, it was Russ Theus that said, well, that's because nobody likes him.
In the meantime, the 21, Keith Gillespie takes a good run down the inside at the end of the straightaway and passes the 8 car.
Yeah, Joseph Zingaro in one of the oldest cars in the field, a 68 Nissan 510. When was the last time you saw one of those?
And we'll see more of those before this week's over. They're good old cars, independent suspension. That one runs a 1600cc motor. They also came with 1800cc motors, and that moves it up a class.
Right now, the 68 Nissan is getting the best of the number 21, and it's a 91 Honda CRX. So giving up more than a decade, more than a couple of decades, we've got a good race going on.
Well, the bad news for the 510 is it's got the same aerodynamics as a brick, so it's not going to like the straightaway much.
Well, it sure likes the corners, and the CRX is trying to find a way around as Keith Gillespie hunts inside on this corner, gets up alongside, but can't make it work.
He'll do it here, though. I think he might be able to get the run up into turn 1. That 510's independent suspension. It's a rear-wheel drive car, and that CRX, of course, is a front-wheel drive car.
And here he goes up inside, makes a nice move and made it look easy. Got a great run off of turn 15 into 1 and takes over the spot. So Zingaro moves up to 9th, shuffles Gillespie back to 10th. The other way around. So here we go as the leader, Will Wright, is out in front right now, and Grant's trying to gather himself back up for another run at a championship. We'll be back to the Valvoline Runoffs in a moment.
Only
blood race.
and the future.
Professional events at Mid-Ohio, you may recognize the voice of Rusty Bell. Rusty, you're a PA announcer at professional events. This weekend, you're a race car driver, and you're also going to announce the race from inside the car. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we are able to call the races here, all the professional events, from the back straightaway there on a tower about halfway down the straight. This weekend, we'll be using the in-car setup here along with the radio that we're able to get in contact with the speed commentators and also the PA announcers. We have a good time doing that out here.
Now, when things get a little hairy, is it tough to call the race?
Sometimes down there in the S's, when you're trying to shift gears and turn the steering wheel, you have a tough time reaching the button on the steering wheel, but I think we're going to give it a go this weekend.
Now, Rusty's qualified middle of the pack. Wants a top 5 finish. He's got a big job in front of him.
Rusty Bell running in 7th position right now and giving the crowd a lot of entertainment out here, Dorsey.
Yeah, he is doing that. Actually did that in Trans Am at this very race with Chris Neville, as a matter of fact. Did the commentary from inside the car and on Speed Vision back then, and it was pretty intense.
Rusty Bell chasing another former champion, Juan Montalvo Jr. in the 28 car just ahead of him. Montalvo winning his title in 1992. And it's a father-son combination out there as well today.
Absolutely. Had a bad run last year, had a crash and took himself out of there. Here's your lead 2 cars, and that 10 car looks okay. Oh, he's got rid of the bodywork. It's all going to fall off here since it's not rubbing anymore.
No, it's not rubbing. It's just dragging the racetrack. So that is quite literally some drag on his race car. And Will Wright is taking advantage of Grant trying to do some onboard engineering out there. Will Wright out in front leading this race, the 2-time champion, and Guy Hobbs is with his crew chief.
Yeah, we're down here with Ken Payson and just talking off air, Ken. You said it's going to be a battle of tires.
Well, I think so. Wilson's pretty much babying those tires right now, and I think what's going to happen is the guy behind him is pushing pretty hard, and also he's got a fender falling off, so I'm not sure how it's going. But Wilson's dropped off about a second off his qualifying pace trying to manage the tires. The track is really greasy out there.
Trying to save those tires for the last few laps?
Exactly. He'll be strong at the end if he doesn't, but he's a pretty smart driver. He's won this race twice and second last year.
Now, you're not on the radio to him, but you are using hand signals. Some interesting gestures coming from the cockpit.
Yes, but I can't translate exactly what they meant. It's probably more than you want to know.
Okay, well, we'll keep a close eye on that and keep a close eye on the tires.
Thank you very much.
Well, that man right there is actually Ken Payson, and he would know because he is also a national champion as a driver himself.
Well, they're all together over there under what's called the Nissan tent. A lot of the Nissan drivers are pitted together, and I suspect because Will Wright said he came here absolutely by himself, so he's drafted Ken as his crew chief just for the race. He works on the car by himself.
And Ken is quite a race car driver. This is a good battle going on right now for 4th place.
Yes, indeed. And we're watching it. They're all over the track. It seems like everybody has found a dance partner as Joe Tenney in 4th position is racing with the number 6 of Lance Stout.
Exactly. And, you know, we talked about the tire issue. There's no question about it. That Keith Grant's car is very loose. I don't know because of the bodywork or whatever, but he's sliding that car around, and you can burn these tires off these cars because there's several compounds you can choose. I'm sure for this race, a half-hour race, they've gone with the softest compound they could get for the speed, but you can also blister those by sliding around like that.
Let's go to Chris Neville with another crewman.
Well, as an ex-professional driver, I know how important it is to have an engineer on the team, and Lance Stout is one of the lucky guys out here who has an engineer on the team. I'm with his wife, Sue Laszlo, and Sue, you're an engineer for the port, the Port of Portland, and you design airports and wharf structures, and you also have some fun with the engineering in the race car.
Absolutely. We have been doing this for over 12 years, and it's really a great thing to do. Get the family involved, and engineering really is an opportunity to get creative. And one of the things that we like about the GT4 class is getting in there and creating the car itself and making it really happen, putting it together and you know, manufacturing things. Yeah.
Fantastic. And back to the booth.
I guess we should have said crew person more accurately there, as his wife is operating as his engineer and crew chief here today.
Well, you don't want to get too creative because that tech shed looms large at the end of the day.
That's right. So here is the number 6 of Lance Stout, the 97 Nissan 200SX, and he's getting the best right now of the battle going on, or he's trying actually to get up there with Tenney and make a pass for 4th position.
Well, I can tell you that the relationship between a driver and a crew or an engineer is one thing, but it being your wife, ooh.
Yes, sir. Well, Will Wright solved most of those problems by traveling alone, and right now he's out in front by himself looking for a 3rd national championship. Can he hang on? We'll be right back.
Whether you're
for car insurance, plus
that's one that didn't work. This one is the one that did work.
Will Wright taking over second position when Culbertson made a bump there on Keith Grant, the leader, and here comes Will Wright for the lead.
Wilson Wright, once he smelled blood, boy, he just said, okay, I'm out of here. And he stuck it right down the inside, took over the lead, and has not relinquished it so far.
Been out front. Meanwhile, Keith Grant has been dragging body work around the racetrack. It hasn't slowed him down much. He's pulled right up to the back bumper of Wilson Wright. And so while it looked like he might be tearing his tires off the bottom of the race car along with the body work, it seems to be very fast anyway.
I think that piece should get rid of itself pretty soon here, but it's not helping him down the straightaway, and he would be well advised to stay right behind the 9 and keep the wind off the back of that car.
This is for the lead, just past halfway. The leaders have crossed the start-finish line now at the end of lap 11, so there are 9 to go as Wilson Wright, or Will Wright as many people call him, is out in front now trying to hold off Keith Grant. He got a good run up the straightaway that time and opened up some more ground.
And Scott Culbertson, it's sitting back there. I don't know. You know, he was so much faster than these guys in qualifying. I don't know, maybe that he's not staying back there and saving tires because we're only halfway and they will burn off on those cars.
I have another theory that he modified the setups along with Keith Grant there.
that could do that too. You can knock your toe out of him with a hit like that.
Something hit Keith Grant, and Culbertson, Scott Culbertson, was the closest one in the neighborhood. There he is. His car still looks pretty good. No real obvious damage on the front that would tell us that he was the culprit.
It's got a little dent in the right lower spoiler down there, but it's not much of an issue for sure. I don't know if it would have caused that much damage.
As Scott Culbertson runs third, let's go back down to Guy Hobbs.
Yeah, we're down here with Joe Harlan, and Joe just radioed into Scott and said, keep pushing, keep pushing. So you're obviously not telling him to save the tires at all.
Well, we're halfway through, and our plan was to start pushing at the halfway mark. We've been saving the car for the first half of the race and trying to stay out of these first and second lap wrecks.
You also said that the other two in front of him are slowing down a bit. They're coming towards him.
It appears that the 2 cars in front of him are slowing down and coming backwards by about a second a lap.
Now, here's the bad news. I understand his brake lights aren't working, and there's been a couple of complaints.
Well, I don't know what to say about that. They've been working all week long, and now's the race, and we're just going to have to deal with it as it goes.
All right, we'll keep a close eye on that. Close eye on the stopwatch here in Scott Culbertson's pit.
Well, I can't imagine there's that many complaints about his brake lights because the nearest competitor in fourth is Joe Tenney, and he's 18 seconds behind.
Well, he told Scott to get on it and watch now because that car is extremely loose. In fact, when he came out of the last corner down there, 15, he left 2 black rubber streaks all the way down and out of that corner. So he's going to be putting some rear heat to those tires if he keeps that up.
Put the move on 2 lap cars, all in the short front straightaway here at Mid-Ohio. So right now, Scott Culbertson's number 46, one of the quicker cars on the racetrack, as he goes by a couple of lap cars and made it look very easy.
Well, you know, he's trying really hard, but he's missing some apexes. He's missed 2 apexes in a row that I saw. He was wide, which means he carried too much speed. The car wouldn't turn down to get the apex. And that's not the fast way around Mid-Ohio. This is a very technical track, and you have to use all the road.
These two are having their own little battle here, even though they are a lap now behind the leaders, and it's a pretty good one.
And that's a Honda CRX and an old Datsun 1200, which is a neat little car. Uh-oh, something broke on that second car, I think.
Yeah, it slowed down quite a bit all of a sudden there as the 19 car moves right around him. Matt Duea out of Yukon, Oklahoma in a 72 Toyota Corolla.
And these little motors, they buzz them like crazy. Like I said, they're real race cars, so they're twisting these 9, 5, 10,000 revs, so sometimes things break.
This is the battle for the lead. Wilson Wright still getting the better of it so far as Keith Grant just rear steers it through the corner, and they head down through one of the longer, straighter sections of the racetrack here. So Wilson Wright still leads, but he's getting plenty of challenge from Keith Grant here in GT4. A national championship is on the line, and some guys are not going to be there at the finish at all.
Every Sunday night on ESPN, the NFL takes center stage. See who will shine.
Waiting for the end zone, Patton, touchdown.
Which teams will speak the loudest. And what performances will never be forgotten.
Alexander in the middle of the field, and he's gone.
Anything can happen in prime time. Sundays at 8:30, only on ESPN Sunday Night Football.
Brought to you locally by Fairgrounds Wine and Liquors in Danbury, Elon's in Danbury, and Keating Ford in Stratford.
You've seen the ads. Incredibly low prices for advertising on cable TV's highest.
and 7 to go as Will Wright and Keith Grant keep going after it here, and Grant just looking for an opportunity and making Wilson Wright think about him, I'm sure.
Oh, no question about that. If you could just get rid of that darn bumper down there, he'd probably pick up 2 or 3, maybe even 5 miles an hour down this very long straightaway. I'm sure he's getting eaten alive because of all the drag that makes.
Well, Grant's car is the fastest one on the track right now. He's the only one in the minute 40-second range. By comparison, 0.4 of a second slower is the leader, and a couple tenths slower than that is Scott Culbertson in third. So the fastest 3 cars on the track are the first 3 cars on the track, but the fastest is the one in second place right now.
And of course, they're a full 3 seconds off what they qualified at, but it rained quite hard last night, so maybe the grip level is just not here.
Track's a little green. After some weather rolled through here last night, we've been pretty fortunate during the daytime all week long, and practice and qualifying has gone extremely well in terms of weather. Here's the battle that has resumed now. Look at the right rear wheel lift going on there.
Yeah, that's that little Honda, and I'd hate to have to paint that if it got wrecked because it's got every color imaginable on it. So I guess you don't have to worry about it painting it.
Ron Copeland's number 17 is a Technicolor miracle over there. Look at it, even green wheels.
And these 2 guys really having a good run at it, and I guarantee you they'll both come out of this race with a big smile.
They're having fun, even though they're not on the lead lap. They're out there having a good time.
Which is one of the best things about SCCA. There's always somebody to race somewhere, no matter where you are.
The 19 of Matt Duea and the 17 of Ron Copeland. And they're still after it.
He's not giving up, that's for sure. Still 2 of these guys really giving it all.
The 17 car out of Maumee, Ohio, one of the local favorites here, a man who has plenty of opportunity to race at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Duea, as we mentioned, from Oklahoma in that Toyota Corolla. And the Technicolor paint job on the number 17 is very, very interesting indeed.
I think everybody in the pit on that thing had a hand in what color it should be.
No one can make up their mind, so they just said we'll paint it all of the above. The 85 of Joe Tenney, a Toyota Tercel, running right now in 4th position. Let's go to Chris Neville for an update.
Yeah, Joe in the 85 Toyota Tercel was having a horrible week. 3 times he had a chance to qualify. Qualified 10th, was very disappointed with that. However, he's up 6 positions. He's running 4th right now, and he's absolutely ecstatic. His crew said he's all over the radio, loving it and just having a good time.
Any misfortune by the drivers in front of him, and Tenney will have himself a podium spot and a medal here at the Valvoline Runoffs. That's what they've all come here for.
And you're right, those guys up in front are pushing awful hard. You see how the car's sliding around and so forth, and of course that means they're right on the knife's edge. If you fall off, this guy right here could be in a real good position.
Driving a very smooth race from 10th up to 4th. Right now he's got plenty of clear track. He can just ride his lines. And in fact, Joe Tenney not very much off the pace of the leaders. And here they are, as Wilson Wright continues to lead Keith Grant as they come out of the carousel and onto the front straightaway at the end of lap number 15. 5 to go at this point.
Well, I like Wilson Wright. I mean, I saw him, when he made that pass, he was so aggressive. You just know that he got the bit between his teeth, and once he got that thing in the lead, now there's going to be one heck of a fight before he's going to give it up, I guarantee you.
Let's go back downstairs again, this time to Guy Hobbs.
And I'm with Keith's mum, Keith Grant's mum, Karen, and you can barely contain yourself.
Yes, you're right.
Oh, now you can.
I'm trying to, yes.
Obviously, you're not on the radio or anything, but lots of waving going on as he goes by here, and it looked like he'd got the lead there going into 1 just about 2 laps ago.
Maybe he can this time. We know.
All right, that's Keith's mum looking on very excitedly.
You can tell both these guys are giving it their all. They're making a lot of technical mistakes on the racetrack. In fact, both of them that time in the carousel up there were real wide of the apex. That's because they're just driving in so hard.
Wilson Wright leading in his number 9 Nissan, and the aerodynamic package is not quite as good on the car in 2nd place, but he's getting the job done nevertheless. Will he make an opportunity for the lead? We'll wait till he come back.
If you want the call them.
Mail-in rebate. So call toll-free 1-800.
Runoffs. the SCCA's biggest event of the year, the Olympics of Motorsports. It's been called, and rightly so. 39 times the event has been held, and for the 9th time we are at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And Wilson Wright with a lap car in between him in second place right now just made his job a little bit easier.
Yeah, he got by that cleanly before turn 1, so he didn't lose momentum. Now we have to see what happens to Mr. Grant, see if he's hung up right here in the little chicane. Looks like he is going to be hung up, and that's slowing him up. He's going to lose a lot of valuable time right here.
Now Keith Grant gets inside the 27 of Juan Montalvo Sr. out of West Palm Beach, Florida. The father-son combination, as we mentioned, both in Honda CRXs and both white. Here's Keith Grant still dragging the bodywork, and that piece of plastic just doesn't want to give up.
Now that's not hurting that one on the ground there, but it's that big bumper at the back. See that big thing? That hole back there is creating a monster amount of drag, and I think he's really not going to be able to do anything about that.
He's finally succumbed to what looks almost like a drag chute sticking out. Here's your third place car, number 46, Scott Culbertson, the pole sitter. Slipped back into third position with all the fracas in the early laps. And since then, he really hasn't been able to take advantage of what was a faster car.
He actually might have had that thing set up a little bit on the loose side, or too much on the loose side, because we see when he gets aggressive, the back end is all over the racetrack. And right there, see the black marks come out from behind it, which means he's using a great deal of rubber up right now on the rear wheels.
And we look a little further back to fourth place Joe Tenney in the number 85 Toyota Tercel. He's out of Fayetteville, Georgia, in the Southeast Division, running in fourth position. Tenney qualified back deep in the field in 10th, and we mentioned he's made a nice run towards the front, and he's found himself a lonesome spot on the racetrack and nobody to race with at this point.
Sometimes a lonesome spot on the racetrack is not a bad thing, particularly if you're hearing that skirmish up. Oh, big trouble there.
Whoa! And he couldn't save it.
Boy, he was lucky, boy, there. He didn't get it into the wall.
Let's see if he's going to lose a spot. He had a pretty good gap on the next car behind him, but he's stalled out right now, and he will be passed by more than a few cars now before he gets it going again.
Boy, he was a lucky boy. He came up over the top. The car got light, got up the outside, should have got in the outside wall. I don't know how in the world he didn't, but it spun around there, and he didn't hit a thing. So, boy.
Well, Joe Tenney in fourth position. Here's what happened to him.
Big power oversteer right here, and it almost hooked him into the wall, and he just didn't get it saved up at all. And around it goes. He was lucky. I had a big crash. That's not a good spot to crash right there.
Finally gets it pointed in the right direction, but the motor had stalled at that point. He had to refire it and get going again. Here is your leader, Wilson Wright Jr. in the number 9 Nissan 200 SX. He's out of Stockbridge, Massachusetts at Mid-Ohio, trying to go for his 3rd national championship.
It's the Ultra Football Fiesta at
You see, Selma's has been providing you with the area's largest selection of yarn, as well as patterns, accessories, and more. Selma's Yarns and Needlework specializes in all styles of knitting, including needlepoint, counted cross, crewel, stamped cross stitch, and embroidery. Selma's Yarns and Needleworks, located between Sitco and First Union Bank in Southbury. Tons of yarn and more.
The Valvoline Runoffs continue here in the Grand Touring 4 class at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and your leader almost from the very beginning has been Wilson Wright Jr. in the number 9 car. Will Wright, he's getting a little loose here and there, but so far, Dorsey Schrader, he's driven a virtually perfect race after making one great move.
He has indeed, and I know in a minute we're going to see his crew chief, who's a very good friend of mine, and it's going to be very exciting.
Let's go to Chris Neville, who's with him.
Well, that's right, Dorsey. I am with your friend Ken Payson, and these guys have won it 2 of the 3 past times. Ken, everything's looking good.
It's looking good now. They've slowed down about 3 seconds a lap, but as I said before, Wilson's managing his tires and holding the car underneath him, so he's faster than those guys when the last laps count.
Well, that's right. We're in the last laps, and this is when it counts.
Kenny and I went way back. He's a very good driver. He's a national champion himself, and we had a lot of pro battles against one another, so he knows what he's doing on car setup.
Well, he's helped Wilson to the degree that exactly what he said is happening. Will Wright is the fastest car on the track with 2 laps to go. He's still doing low 41s, mid 41s for Keith Grant, and Culbertson high 41, so he's getting the job done, and at this point there's no danger of him losing the lead. but he might start hearing a few noises out there.
Now he'll hear some noise, and Keith Grant in the meantime realizes he cannot make up that deficit in 2 laps. There's no way it's going to happen. So he needs to just be smooth and run these last 2 laps off, because if he makes a mistake trying to charge, of course, he'll lose his second place position.
Keith Grant may have to settle for a silver medal at the National Championship runoffs here, but he has certainly made a big effort in trying to take the gold. It looks as though Wilson Wright, though, just put it all together, stayed out of trouble, made one great move, got a few bumps. He'll have to do a little bit of body work when he gets back to Massachusetts, but not much.
Well, you saw him seize the moment, and that's exactly what he did do when the pass was made. He got the bit between his teeth, and since then, boy, he's just been on the rail.
A 2.6-second advantage over Keith Grant in second position. There's the distance on the racetrack between them as they work their way through the twisty part of Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And out of the final turn, across start finish now with 1 lap remaining in this National Championship runoff in GT4.
This is where you hear the noises. You know, you hear the motor start knocking and the gearbox is whining all of a sudden. You're thinking, oh, come on, just 1 more lap, get me back.
Culbertson has kept his very fast car from qualifying undented, but it just has slowed down for some reason. And now the 21 car of Keith Gillespie is off the racetrack. Gillespie had been running in 10th position, but his day is over in the Honda CRX.
He's at the end of a gravel trap somewhere. That's a front-wheel drive car. It should be able to pull itself out, but you saw him underneath the car, so I think possibly something's broken there.
And right now, Wilson Wright is on the final lap of the GT4 championship here at Mid-Ohio, and his 3rd title seems to be a certainty at this point.
Yeah, he knows it too. All he has to do now is finish off a real clean lap. Lap time, lap speed doesn't make a bit of difference right now.
And the 6th car goes into the pits as Lance Stout, running in 7th position, is retired here at the end of the race.
Boy, with 1 lap to go, that's not what you want.
So here comes Wilson Wright Jr. Around the final couple of corners here. He'll just have a few more turns before he can coast across the finish line. And hand signals, we're pretty sure what they'll mean when he crosses the finish line if he sticks one out through the window.
This man right here gave it all. I tell you, he did the best he could with that car, dragging that bumper all over the place. It just wasn't going to happen.
Wilson Wright through the carousel and into turn number 15. 1 left-hander and a short run to the finish line. There's his crew chief, Ken, waiting for him, and the checkered flag is waving for Wilson Wright, who wins his 3rd national title in GT4. Let's go to Chris Neville.
Ken, congratulations. You guys got your 3rd title. How'd everything go out there? And you feel pretty good?
Great, great. You know, this is a grassroots effort. Wilson does most of the work on the car himself and his little shop out in Massachusetts. And it's nice to see what the spirit of SCCA is all about is still in it. I mean, he's beat some good teams here with some pretty expensive motors in there. And I can tell you right now, that motor isn't the best one he had, but it's the one he won with. So
now you're a driver too. Are we going to see you out here?
I already raced the showroom stock B race earlier today, but Wilson's my friend, so I do anything I can to help him.
Sounds good. Back up to the booth.
All right, Wilson Wright in his 3rd championship. He gets lots of practice during the week, Dorsey, working on other people's motors and race cars, and when it comes time to build the one he wanted, there it is.
But these cars are fun from that element. If you like working on cars or you like building race cars, this is a class where you can build from a ground up a real thoroughbred race car. You pick a body, whichever one you think, and you pick a motor, which is a very, a key point, because they twist these motors up pretty hard. And it's a neat class. They're fun to drive. They're well balanced. They're not cheap. I can tell you that. They're not an inexpensive car to build.
A virtually perfect day on the racetrack ends a virtually perfect week for Wilson Wright. His 1 week of vacation, well, I think his scrapbook is going to be full of very nice souvenirs when he goes back to Massachusetts. And how about Keith Grant? Well, his car doesn't look quite as good as the winner, but you know what? It worked very well indeed.
It did really well, and that had to have hurt him, that body work. I mean, that's huge drag down the straightaway, and I think that's the decisive factor what kept him from being able to attack.
So Keith Grant comes home with a 2nd position and some damage to the bodywork there that no doubt slowed him down a little bit. Otherwise, he would have been much more of a contender for the lead than he was. He was up front racing. We had a 3-way battle going there for a while with Scott Culbertson, and they all swapped spots a few times before it finally settled out, and Wilson Wright ended up the winner. So he's heading towards Victory Circle right now. We expect to talk to the driver of the number 9 car, the national champion here at Mid-Ohio in GT4. Stay with us. We'll wrap it up for you when we come back.
pets.
Tonight on Speed News NASCAR Edition, Winston Cup points leader Tony Stewart in a rare sit-down interview talks about the season, the championship, and the future. Tony Stewart on Speed News NASCAR Edition, tonight at 7, exclusively on Speed.
Speed Channel's coverage of the SCCA Valvoline Runoffs is brought to you by Valvoline. You can always tell the guys who use Valvoline. GT4 class is over here at the Runoffs, and Wilson Wright Jr. from Stockbridge, Massachusetts has won his 3rd national championship in the class. He's with Guy Hobbs.
Wilson, first of all, congratulations on your 3rd national title.
Thank you very much. It was tough with Scotty and Keith. You know, we were really tooth and nail for the first few laps. I got into Scotty a little bit on the madness uphill, and we both kind of locked horns a little bit in the bumpers, and that let Keith go by. So we separated, kept moving along, and then finally I think Scott tangled a little bit with Keith out of madness, out of the right-hander, and then I was able to get into second, and then finally I was able to get Keith. I honestly don't remember where I got Keith.
It was obviously such a good pass. It's not, well, it's forgettable.
Yeah, well, it's not. Hopefully the tape still works, and I'll be able to tell you next year.
Now, there was some discussion during the race as to whether this could be a battle between the tyres and whether you were in fact saving them for the first few laps so you have some good tyres that run at the end. You run on Goodyears and the other guys run on Hoosiers. Was that a case for you?
The tires, Goodyear tires worked very well. You know, I have to say they were consistent. They were great right out of the box. They were great at the end. You know, it allowed me to actually get a little few tenths. I could look in the mirrors. I see Keith moving back a little bit. I'd miss a shift. He'd catch up. Then I'd be able to gain it back on him again. You know, so the tires work great.
Now you're going to come back with a new Nissan Z next year?
Well, I can talk to Ron about that, and maybe we can work a deal, maybe.
All right. We'll let you go out and do your victory lap. Congratulations, Wilson Wright. Chris Neville?
Well, I'm here with second-place finisher Keith Grant. And Keith, by the way the car's smoking and how it smells, I think you used just about every bit of this car to try and catch Wilson.
Yeah, sure did. Rear of the tower was started getting loose towards probably the last 7 or 8 laps. I was all over Wilson towards right at the middle of the race, and then the car started getting loose. He seemed to have just a little bit on me on the back straight. I think he was coming off the keyhole a little bit better. But anyway, we had a great race, good clean race with Wilson. Enjoyed it a lot.
You've also got some body work hanging off the back end of the car. A couple guys taking shots at you?
Well, I got Scott and I came together at the end of the back straight. I think he got into my rear bumper once, and then we came together down through Thunder Valley. It was unfortunate, but I don't know exact cause of it. I just felt him hit me, or we came together all of a sudden, and unfortunately that put me back, took me out of the lead. That's all I could do at that point.
Back up to the booth.
All right, that big parachute still hanging off the back, and I think both of us are surprised that it hung on as long as it did. And there's the silver medal for Keith Grant. Let's take a look at the final results. You've met the first 2 finishers, and Scott Culbertson rounds out the top 3. He's got a bronze medal around his neck, very similar to the one that you just saw. Juan Montalvo Jr., former champion, finishes 4th. And Joe Tenney had some misfortunes out there to turn out in 5th spot. And our PA announcer, Rusty Bell, called his own race across the line in 6th.
And did a good job getting it up to 6th because he started way in the back there. And Juan Montalvo Jr., he'll be quite happy with that 4th, I guarantee you.
Take a look at the rest of the results here as we look at them all from Grand Touring 4. 17 cars started the race, 19 of them qualified, and it was a small but quality field that turned out to be very, very entertaining. I liked it. How about you, Doris?
It's a good race, no question about it. I think that bumper would have got away. That would have been a better race because that was the straightaway deficit. It was that big drag, that parachute back there all day.
All right. Well, Scott Culbertson ended up in 3rd spot, and now he's with Guy Hobbs.
And he's cooling himself off a little warm and went over and shook hands with all the other guys. Obviously, a great race out there.
Oh, it's a ton of fun, yeah.
It was worth the tow?
Absolutely.
Now, you had the pole, but obviously you were trying to save tyres with the strategy through all the top 3 guys, but they kind of never came back for you.
I don't think anybody's tires actually came back. I think it's pretty greasy out there. There's nothing much you could do. It's really humid and hot. I think the track had a little bit of oil on it, but I think we all just tried to just manage tires the best we could and just skate around.
All right, now we're off to join the Air Force?
That's correct.
All right, good luck to you. Chris is with our 4th place finisher.
Yeah, I'm here at car 28, Milan Montalvo Jr., the son who was out here racing. You started 9th, you finished 4th, you look pretty hot.
It was a tough race. The car had no power. I was just driving as hard as I could in the turns, and they'd walk me in the straights, and I got lucky to finish 4th.
Did you use a lot of the car up trying to get up there?
I used every bit of tire that was on the car.
And how'd your dad do?
I'm not sure. I just came in. I saw him finish, so that's a good thing, so I don't know.
Back up to you guys in the booth.
9th for the record, Chris Neville, Juan Montalvo Sr. So Dad finishes 9th, son finishes 4th, and they'll have plenty to talk about when they go home.
2 in the top 10 here. There's nothing wrong with that. And Juan did a great job driving that car up there because he's right. He doesn't have any straightaway speed.
Well, the race course is holding up extremely well, and we expect there to be a lot more action this weekend. But the GT4 class is going to be pretty tough to beat for excitement and activity out there on the 15 turns of Mid-Ohio. Will Wright takes his victory lap of honor with the checkered flag hanging out the window, and he's going to be awful proud of this one. He won it with a great move.
Well-deserved win. Yeah, I mean, he was very aggressive. Once he got the lead, he never looked back.
So we will continue our coverage here on Speed of the Valvoline Runoffs, but we hope you enjoyed the GT4 class. And I want to thank my broadcast partners, Guy Hobbs and Chris Neville downstairs, Dorsey Schrader up here in the booth, and most especially you for joining us. I'm Brian Drever. So long, everybody. Till next time.
We now join our regular...